All right, let's talk about a word you've definitely heard thrown around, but maybe you're not 100% sure what it really is. I'm talking about a network proxy. We're going to unmask this digital mediator and figure out what's actually going on.
So right off the bat, let me ask you, when I say the word proxy, what's the first image that comes to mind? Are you thinking about cybersecurity, hiding your location to stream something, or maybe something else entirely? Whatever it is, just kind of hold that thought for a second. It's funny, because that word, proxy, it seems to have a bit of an identity crisis, you know? Ask a security pro, and they'll immediately think of tools like Burp Suite. Talk to a web developer, and they're probably picturing something like Cloudflare protecting their site. And yeah, for a lot of us, it's just that thing you use to get on another country's Netflix, right? And then you've got law enforcement, who might associate it with, well, some less than legal activities.
So, with all these different ideas floating around, who's actually right? Well, here's the thing. The surprising answer is that not all of them are. Some of those common ideas are actually a little off base. So let's cut through the noise and get to what a proxy really is. Okay, here it is. The core definition. A network proxy is basically a mediator. Think of it as a go-between, a middleman that sits in the middle of a connection. But here's the absolute key part. It inspects the traffic. It doesn't just pass it along, it looks inside. That one ability to inspect is what separates a proxy from everything else. And this is the perfect way to understand the difference between a proxy and, say, your home router, which is what we'd call a gateway. Your router is like a mail sorter. It just looks at the address and sends the package on its way. A proxy, on the other hand, is like a security checkpoint. It actually opens the package to see what's inside. So remember that. If it's not inspecting, it's not a proxy. Simple as that.
Okay, so what about that whole Netflix thing? Changing your location? 9 times out of 10, that's actually a VPN, not a proxy. It's a super common misconception. People think, hey, my IP address changed, so I must be using a proxy. And, as the source material for this explainer points out, it's probably best not to even crack them. It's kind of harmless, and you might just end up in one of those endless nerd debates, like tabs versus spaces. So yeah, we'll just let that one go.
If you want a quick technical rule of thumb, just remember this. Layer 7. Proxies almost always operate at layer 7 of the OSI model. Now, what does that mean in plain English? It means they work at the application level, the level where your web browser is talking, where data actually looks like website stuff. And that's why they can inspect the contents. They're working where the interesting stuff happens. All right, now that we know what a proxy is, let's meet the two main characters in this story. You've got your forward proxies and your reverse proxies.
So first up, we've got the forward proxy. Honestly, this is probably the one you're already picturing in your head. Its entire job is to handle outgoing requests that come from a client, so from your computer. It acts on your behalf. Think of it like a personal assistant who makes all your phone calls for you.
The classic real-world example? That web filter at your office that stops you from going on certain sites. But here's where it gets really powerful. Malware defense. Let's say some nasty software gets on your machine and tries to phone home to its evil mothership. Well, if you have a forward proxy set up, it can just see that request and nope, blocked. The malware is stopped dead in its tracks.
And check this out. This is a really cool little detail. Most browsers, like Chrome or Edge, just automatically use whatever proxy settings your whole operating system is using. This makes it super easy for some types of malware to hijack that connection. But Firefox? Firefox does its own thing. It has its own separate proxy settings, and that means for malware to use it, it would have to be specifically designed to look for Firefox's configuration, which almost never happens. It's a tiny design choice, but it has these huge security implications. Pretty clever, right? Okay, so that was the forward proxy. Now let's flip the script and meet its counterpart, the reverse proxy. And as you can probably guess from the name, it does the complete opposite. It doesn't protect you going out to the internet. It protects the server from all the traffic coming in from the internet. And trust me, you use these things all the time without even knowing it. Ever heard of Cloudflare? They use reverse proxies to protect websites from those massive DDoS, or denial of service attacks. Or something called a WAF, a web application firewall. These are basically just reverse proxies that act like a super smart security guard, checking every single person, every request that tries to get to the web server, and blocking the bad ones. They are literally the front line of defense for most major websites. Okay, so we've got our two main types, forward and reverse. But there's one last piece to this puzzle. Let's call it the invisibility cloak. The big question is, do you even know the proxy is there, or is it working completely unseen? This brings us to transparent versus non-transparent proxies. The invisible one is a transparent proxy. It just intercepts your traffic automatically. You don't have to do anything, and you probably won't even know it's happening. You see this a lot in big corporate networks or with internet service providers. The other kind, the non-transparent proxy, is the one you have to actually tell your computer to use. You have to go into the settings and configure it yourself. If you don't set it up, it just sits there, unused.
All right, let's take a breath. We've defined what a proxy is, we've met the forward and reverse types, and we know they can be visible or invisible. So what? Why does this actually matter? Well, it matters because these digital mediators are all around us, and they are constantly, quietly shaping your entire online world.
If you're going to remember one thing, let it be this. Think of them as your two digital guardians. The forward proxy is the one that protects you from the internet. And the reverse proxy is the one that protects the internet from you, or at least it protects the servers you're trying to visit. One looks out for you, the other looks out for them.
And that really is the final thought to leave you with. Every single day, from the network you use at work or school to every major website you visit, these invisible go-betweens are there. They're inspecting, filtering, and routing your data. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? How many of these digital mediators are shaping your experience of the internet at this very moment?